Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nu U.K with Gwen, Peter, and me, Kevin Smith. The weather here has been very cold indeed. It's been regularly around zero and dropping into the negative numbers. So if you're in the UK, make sure you wrap up warm. And of course, we find ourselves right in the middle of all the Brexit nonsense, as the UK desperately attempt to extricate themselves from the European Union. Obviously, their efforts will be met with zero success because the whole thing is completely stitched up in a game. And also, and even with the supposed support of our own government, which you would have thought have our best interests at heart, obviously they're involved in it as well, so they will ensure that we remain in it. And a lot of people are suggesting that because we dared to defy the European Union overlords, the likelihood is the UK will be punished for their insurrection and audacity, and probably made an example of, so other countries will not dare to follow in our footsteps of trying to leave the European Union. Anyway, I shall share some dream experiences. I was with a group of old school friends. I hadn't seen them for many years. Indeed, some of them I hadn't seen for probably about 15 to 20 years. And the setting started off by a large mansion, and from there we wandered out into the surrounding wilderness. Our intention was to go and skywatch and see if we could see any UFOs. So off we went. We found a likely spot. We laid down on our backs and stared into the heavens, perchance to see a UFO or two. We didn't actually see any UFOs, but one of my old school friends turned to look at me and and gave me this message. He said, "Some of the dreams you have are not dreams that are anything to do with your future or your past or your present necessarily. Some of the dreams you have are that of your clone." And he went on to tell me that a lot of people have been cloned. And I remember on a Skype with Dwayne, I think it was on the Sandy and Bob show, they were talking about clones. And it seems that if you have been cloned, which it seems a lot of people have been, then you will share your awareness will be spread effectively between two vehicles. And so it never really occurred to me, but this dream suggests that, and the person in it with a message for me suggested that a lot of times you may well be having dreams about what your clone is doing and vice versa. I thought that was all very interesting. And another dream seemed to be one of the dreams that I have from time to time where it's based in the future or a potential future. I have quite a few post-apocalyptic type dreams and living in those sort of situations where you're surviving with groups of people in what remains of civilization. In this case, there still seemed to be some semblance of order, because me and my parents and my brother were trying to secure a house in obviously what was a very war-ravaged and nuclear-infected world. And only a few areas of the world at this point were habitable and still could actually have housing. And the housing that was available was ranked between 1 to 5, 1 being the least contaminated area and 5 being the worst. And if you were to end up in the areas 4 and 5, you would in fact have to wear radioactive resistant contamination suits permanently. And unfortunately, the place that we secured was number 4. And interesting enough, also the number was 10,500. And I thought, well, that's a little specific in a dream, but I sort of noted the number down because it stuck in my mind. And another dream I had was where I was wandering around in an open field, and I seemed to have an objective, and suddenly I found myself stopping. and beginning to dig. And oddly enough, the first thing I found when I dug a few inches under the surface were a collection of strawberries. I thought, that's a little random. I placed them to one side and proceeded to dig. Digging further down, I found an opening, a hatch. I would then open this, and I saw a hole descending into the ground with a ladder attached to the side. So, curiously, I descended this ladder to see what I may see. I discovered a huge underground network of tunnels and interlacing, connecting tunnels and sections. They went deeper and deeper. It was very extensive. And I came across, it seemed to be a colony of sort of slaves who were there. They were definitely there against their will. There were caged areas and they're all chains and sort of everything that would suggest they were not there because they wished to be. And it was a very dull and dismal setting indeed. And their captors, or their slave masters, were these strange insectoid-like creatures. I was half expecting to see possibly reptilians, or maybe some greys, but these looked a little bit like the aliens you might see in the series of movies called Alien by Ridley Scott, the xenomorphs they were called. They didn't look exactly like that, but they certainly looked very insectoid-like. They were bipedal and looked a bit dodgy to me. And as we all well know, there are huge underground complexes all over the world where the aliens live and the greys lurk, and all sorts of strange things occur under the ground. And apparently it was one of the things that was possibly going to happen in the future in the aftermath of great global catastrophes. Those that remained will be taken underground, and that's where they may well live the duration of their lives under the watchful eye of the aliens that lurk there. And another dream that I had. I was wandering around my neighbourhood, on the street near my home. Suddenly I encountered a noxious, foul-smelling fog, and I was instantly reminded of the book, The Fog, that ran along the lines of if you were to go anywhere near it, it would cause you to go crazy. And in fact, in this dream, anybody who made contact with this fog did exactly that. They would lose any sort of sense of themselves and seem to go absolutely crazy, just in a sort of like a berserk rage, completely out of control and a danger to anybody who would encounter them. I had a sense that this was a demonstration, possibly, of what may happen when the 5G Wi-Fi fields get activated. Because I was talking with Kelsey and Henry the other day on a Skype, and we were talking a little bit about this and how not only may there be health implications and physical effects of the 5G, but it may also affect people in this manner as well. It's very likely it is a mind-controlling technology in which everybody could conceivably be turned into zombies. So perhaps we could well see a real-life zombie apocalypse, and people could be activated and triggered and remote controlled to sort of attack people. And this is the sense I got from this dream anyway. This was perhaps, obviously the fog was very visible, and obviously the Wi-Fi is going to be an invisible electromagnetic fog, but nevertheless the effects may run along these sort of lines. We will see. And my last dream was quite interesting. I think this dream was demonstrating that friends and relatives who have passed on, even though they are perhaps in the next life level in the astral generally, they will not be necessarily any more aware or wise than they were when they left the earth. And sometimes perhaps they will mean well, and wish to convey messages that will assist you, but they are not privy to enough knowledge or awareness. So, dream would start when it was in a desert setting, and I was with Dwayne and some other new friends, and we were receiving sort of training and teachings from Dwayne. Then this setting would fade, and then suddenly I was in another area, and I was looking up into the sky and watching all these UFOs fly by. And suddenly, my deceased Nan suddenly materialised beside me, and was telling me about how she's worried about the new presentation and how she feels it's a cult, and she's like concerned about what I'm doing and these sort of things. And then the dream ended. And a lot of times guides do take the form of our friends and loved ones, but evidently this wouldn't have been a guide, otherwise they would not have said such a thing. And then sometimes, obviously, the deceptors can take the form of your relatives and loved ones and attempt to put you off. And then the third option is that they may genuinely be the people, but because even though they have passed on and left the physical level and are possibly on the astral, they may not be any more aware than they were when they left the earth. Therefore, they may not have the awareness to understand or appreciate what the new presentation is, or what it is referring to, and so they genuinely may have your best interests at heart, but they simply they will not understand what the new presentation is.
Hello, it's Peter Smith again, Kevin's elderly father. Just been asked to talk about some other dreams I've had, old and recent. Recently, not very many actually, since I last spoke with any interest. One very quick one, about a week ago. I suddenly found myself seemingly in Roman times. I don't think I've ever sort of experienced any dreams about or anything like that before. It's quite interesting. I seemed to be outside this very picturesque, either a big house or possibly even a palace with all columns in front of it, rather like the Parthenon kind of thing. And the apparent owner was asking me what I thought of it. Apparently, it had just been built, and was there any way I could think of any way of improving it? I don't know what he was asking me for, but perhaps I was an architect or something. That was slightly interesting. Perhaps a past life flashback of some sort. I don't know. It's quite vivid. I seem to be having more and more dreams now since been doing the Nu U.K thing. I seem to remember him a lot better than I used to. That's all rather interesting. See what I've actually been dreaming about. But I've had dreams over the years, as I said before, but very vivid ones that sort of stayed with me all my life. Ones from years ago. I think the main reason I remember these very long ago dreams is the one-off ones, and that were particularly vivid and invariably seem to concern death to some extent. I had one very vivid dream. I have no idea how long ago it was, probably 30 or 40 years ago, but that I was being guillotined, which was quite fascinating. And it was very vivid and clear, and I seemed to be quite interested in it, see what was going to happen, what the experience was going to be like, and even chatting to the executioner. And then I was strapped down on the thing, and the blade fell, and I've experienced being in the head, falling down into the basket. And up to that point, I was quite well, so cheerful, but quite sort of not in any way alarmed. But then I was expecting to leap free from my body and go on to better things, and nothing happened. And I seemed to be stuck in the head, and that's when I started to panic a bit, and then that was the end of that dream, which is pretty well. That's sort of things that got in my weird mind, I suppose. But I had one really horrendous dream that I remember. Also from many years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but when I found myself standing in the middle of what seemed to be a huge battlefield, and there was no scenery or anything in any direction as far as you could see. It was just this empty place with just me in it, the only person there, or at least the only person standing, because everywhere, as far as I could see, it was carpeted with dead bodies, and I was the only one standing, and I suddenly started to panic, and I started to run, and these bodies, everyone I ran past suddenly got up, and they seemed to be made of clay. This was a strange thing, and then they were chasing me, and everybody I ran past got up and started chasing me. Till I've been chased by thousands of these doing things. And suddenly I was in our bathroom at home where we lived at the time, and I somehow managed to commit suicide. And all these things are all caught up with me, or I feel groping me, if you like, which was pretty horrendous. But I guess I can't remember any more recent ones of any great interest.
Okay, so I don't have any dreams to talk about. I have a lot of vivid dreams, but I never remember them. 2 seconds after I wake up, they're gone, but they're very vivid. So I thought I'd say a bit about what's mostly been talked about in England at the moment, and that's Brexit. We joined the European Union in 1973. We had a referendum in 1975, and everybody said, yeah, it's a great thing, we want to stay in, and so on. We had another referendum in June 2016, and the remainders who wanted to stay in had about 48% of the votes, and the leave won by 52%. So it was only just through. After that, there was a lot of backwards and forwards in and name calling and mudslinging and the rest of it. And people were saying it's not fair. We didn't get the result we wanted. We got to have another one. But luckily they didn't, because what is the point of having another one? So we are now kind of moving slowly towards finalizing this thing. I think it's March next year. But there was a lot of splitting of people. Younger people said it's not fair. All you oldies have messed it up for us because you voted leave. And apparently, though, later on they found out that the percentage of younger people voting was pretty small compared to the percentage of older people voting. So if they wanted to stay in, they should have got themselves to the polling station and voted. Anyway, that's the main thing on the news at the moment, apart from, we're going to have a bad winter. But we're going to have to wait and see what's going to happen. They're discussing what's going to happen with this, that, and the other. From the first look at it, it looks like Great Britain is going to be better off. Not so many monies will go to European stuff. We will have our own rules and laws and deciding who comes in the country and whatnot. But we'll have to see whether it gets through as people want it to or not. We'll have to see, as I keep on saying.